Hello chess friends and welcome to Najdorf Chess channel and welcome to the TCEC season 23 super final between the two top engines Leela LCZero and Stockfish 15. So this will be now again an epic event for us to watch. This is now the most powerful finals that you can see in chess history, because these two engines have evolved in such a beautiful way. Basically they're unbeatable, and of course we'll see now which engine is still the best in the world. In my opinion, probably it will be again a pure domination by Stockfish 15, because Stockfish proved itself as, of course, in the previous tournaments as simply the best engine in the world. So what makes this tournament so special? In my opinion, this super final has been already one of the best super finals that I've seen in my life, because usually these super finals are starting with too many drawish outcomes for my taste. In this particular super final, we have already 6-7 winning games by these two top engines, and the result is so far +1 for Stockfish 15. So Stockfish has now 7.5 points against Leela LCZero 6.5 points. So many great games have been played already, and we'll see now 100 games in the super final. So in my opinion, these games will be really worth to study, worth to analyze, of course worth to download, in order to get a better understanding of particular openings and of course of particular sidelines of opening. So let's see now one brutal game from the TCEC season 23 super final. I've sorted out a beautiful Chevening Najdorf Sicilian with this beautiful English attack that I think is the most common approach of whites to beat the Najdorf or the Chevening Sicilian. Be prepared. This was again simply brutal chess. I had really to let the engine run here in order to understand what's going on the board, because the game in the middle game stage was quite complicated. Be prepared. This is simply brutal chess from another dimension. So let's see now the game. So here Stockfish 15 opened with the move e4. We have c5 by Leela LCZero, knight to f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight to d4, knight to f6, hitting the pawn on e4. We have knight to c3, and now comes the Najdorf Sicilian move, the move a6, with the preparation, of course, to play the move e5. So now bishop to e3. This is now the English attack. It's similar maybe to the Yugoslav attack when you're playing against the Dragon Sicilian, but with the main strategic ideas. I think queen to d2, f3, g4, h4. So you're trying to launch a flank attack on the king side, and you want to secure, of course, the king by castling. So it becomes now then on opposite side attacking, where white is the king on the queen side, black is many times the kings on the king side, and who is faster on the attack will probably win the game. So here we have the move e6. The more direct way is, of course, to play the common Najdorf Sicilian move, but the pre-arranged line was now the move e6, which becomes now the Cheveningen structure of the Sicilian defense. And what is the beauty about this defense? In my opinion, this e6 approach is more positional, because you have a certain flexibility of your pawn structure. You can still play d5, or you can still, of course, play the move e5 if the position requires such a move, like the move e5. Then you play e5. But I think you have a better flexibility with this move. Although, for instance, the top grandmasters are using the e5 move immediately. So here in the continuation, Stockfish plays f3. Is preparing, of course, the g4 attack immediately. In the continuation, we have now bishop to e7, queen to d2, preparing queenside castling. We have now b5, hitting, of course, the queen side here, expanding on the queen side here. Black is like usually hitting this minority attack against these three pawns. So using this pawn two pawns against these three pawns in order to create structural weaknesses. What I mean about structural weaknesses is maybe to create some sort of a weak pawn or an imbalanced pawn structure, or maybe to at least open the position. Maybe the b file can be opened by some rook activities, maybe the a file, but at least you're trying to make dynamic progress on that side of the board. So we have now g4 immediately by Stockfish 15, continuing the pressure on the king side. Knight from f to d7, getting out of the potential attack by the pawn, because black doesn't want to lose any tempo with the move g5, and it's trying also to reroute the knight here on c5, where it can be useful, of course, attacking the center of the board. So we have now queenside castling, bishop to b7, and now an interesting move already by Stockfish 15, h4. It's a tricky move. It's, of course, a trap that many of us will fall for, but of course not Leela LCZero, which is, of course, one of the best engines in the world. But let's see now what happens, for instance, if you play bishop to h4. Then you have this problem. G5 will happen and your bishop gets locked, so you have to now escape. You have to play bishop to g3. That's not the only move. And now comes a stunning move, which would destroy immediately here black's camp, the move g6. Notice there is this tension on the h file, so you cannot take with the h pawn. If you take with the f pawn, then you get destroyed here around the square e6. So the knight is coming into the game. Still, the bishop is a little bit loose on the board. Many of us maybe would try to even play this position, but I guarantee you this is a destroyed position for black. Black is losing this game for sure. What you could do, maybe you could try here to play h6, getting out of the range, but then of course g takes f7, king to f7, bishop to h3. Look, we have a beautiful attacking flow. White is continuing the pressure, black is simply on the defensive side. So you could maybe try to play this kind of a, I don't know, defensive move, but it's really weird to watch the position like this. You're just playing moves that are defending your position further. Now we play rook to g1. You can maybe escape with bishop to g5, but look at this, f4, bishop to d4 is going to happen, bishop to d4, and now I think you lose in the near future the battle around the square g7 or similar stuff. We can include of course the queen into the game. You are vulnerable in light square, so in my opinion this is a position that you can resign. So here in the continuation we have now the move h4. After move h4 we have knight to b6 by the Leela LCZero. We can of course use the square in order to attack the position further. This is now a powerful square. Many times black is using the square in order to make further progress, because although this bishop is not optimal on the light square, bishop is of course not the optimal minor piece, because it's a little bit blocked out by its own pawn structure, but you want to keep it. And many times black is trying sort of a maneuver b4, forcing you to play knight to e2 and then to take over here on c4. So then of course after knight to c4 we have a fork against the queen and the bishop, and then you lose of course your very powerful dark square bishop. So you have to be careful also here now from white's perspective. Black is here good defensive resources. We have now queen to e1, we have knight to d7 was played by Leela LCZero, and now king to b1, because after potential knight to c4 you want to still have the flexibility to play bishop to c1 to get out of the range and secure your bishop, but also keeping it on this diagonal where it can of course attack further the potential kingside castling position. So we have rook to c8, Leela LCZero continues the pressure on the c file, and now Stockfish continues with the plan g5. We have now kingside castling by Leela LCZero, finally securing the king, but now bishop to c1, Stockfish as I said retreated with the bishop, but I think we can agree that white didn't lose any activities with his bishop. Okay, maybe it's on the starting score, but we have improved our position. Now this bishop will be very, very important in the continuation of this attack by white. So we have now b4. Now comes this idea. Stockfish has still the flexibility to go to knight to e2. We have now a5. Leela LCZero continues the plan, and now queen to g3. The queen found also, I think, here a beautiful square in the position. Now Stockfish 15 has also some opportunities maybe here on the g file. So in the continuation we have now queen to c7 by Leela LCZero, and this is okay, this is perfectly fine. You are attacking the c2 pawn, you are maybe threatening some ideas of e5, deflecting the knight from the square c2. But there is also one other tactical problem about this move queen to c7. Notice that the queen is lined up here also on the queen on this diagonal. So there are certain tactical threats on this diagonal, maybe not immediately, but if something clears, if something explodes sort of in the center of the board, then I think this could be also very important to notice. Black could lose also the tactical battle on this diagonal. So that's why Stockfish played here interesting move, bishop to h3. Many of us, I think, would be annoyed by this possibility of the e5 attack, because as we said, the pawn on c2 is weak. But now after bishop to h3, actually Leela LCZero played here a very important move d5, which makes sense. d5, okay, we're trying to simplify the game, we're trying to trade off the queens, and we have to also agree black has a dominant position around the square d5. Many pieces are directed to the d5 square, so d5 really makes sense. But let's see now this other opportunity with the move e5. e5 would be also very interesting, because as we said, the pawn on c2 is a vulnerable square, so maybe we can use this square in order to attack the position further. So So after e5, okay, we're retreating the knight on f5, but we're keeping the activity. I think the knight is perfectly fine here. But look at this, what happens. If you play now queen to c2, okay, we're stepping back to a1, and here the attack is splashed. Black doesn't have any more good attacking chances. Black, okay, you created one check, you're maybe threatening something, but now the attack is splashed. Actually, white should be much better here, although white lost now a pawn, but this knight on f5 is now the most powerful piece in the position. First of all, you have to secure your bishop. Maybe you could try some ideas of rook to e8, but look how devastating, really brutal this attack would be if Leela C0 would have played the move e5. As we said, Leela C0 played the move d5, but I was really curious what's going to happen after e5. Look at this. After rook to e8, we are continuing the pressure with the move h5. We can even leave this knight hanging, which is really wild. After move queen to e2, now you're continuing to push here with the move g6, f take g6, h take g6, and maybe you're trying here to lock the position with the move h6, which made really sense. But look at this now, what happens. Knight to h6, g takes h6. Now the bishop is coming into the game. You have this one, but now with bishop to h6, the game is over. You can play here king to h8. Now we play bishop to f8. You have king to queen to h2, just prolonging the game, but it would be now a beautiful checkmate. So instead of this move h6 here, which we saw was brutalizing black's position, you can maybe try also the move h5, not allowing this tactical shot. But again, with rook to e1, the queen has to step back, and now with knight to f8, here we have knight to e7, pardon me, rook to e7, bishop to g5 is coming now in a beautiful way into the game. You have to step back, and now with queen to h4, there is not a good protection of the h5 square. We'll eventually play some ideas of queen to h7. We can also include then the bishop into the game. I think with this rook and queen battery, you're getting destroyed for sure. So see how strong a white's position is. Even if you play e5, even if you lose the pawn on c2, the game is over here for black. Really wild stuff. So after move bishop to h3, so that's why Leela C0 tried d5, which is also making sense. We want to simplify the game. We want to trade off the queens. When the queens are off the board, then the game is not so complicated anymore. But Stockfish plays again a beautiful sharp tactical idea. Plays now the move e5. Of course, after queen to e5, you get trapped. The queen is out of game now. Queen to f4, bishop to f4 simply wins the queen. So that's why after move e5, you have to take out with the knight. But now after move knight to e5, Stockfish continues simply the pressure. Notice there is now, as I said, simply the tension here on this diagonal. The problem about this tension is that many times you cannot retreat with your queen, maybe with your rook here, maybe to d8 or b8. So the rook has to stay connected to the queen. I'll explain a couple of more moves why is it so. Because for instance, if you play something like after move h5 here, if you play maybe something like knight to c4, then actually we can continue the pressure here with the move g6. You are trading off maybe the queens, but after move knight to g3, here we have this idea, h takes g6, h takes g6, and notice now there is again this weak square on e6. So even if you take, then we have this one, bishop to e6. You have to cover now with the rook, and here the game is over. Actually, there is even this tactical shot, rook to h8, king to h8, now bishop to f7, and there is not a good way anymore to protect this beautiful check by the rook on h1. You just can prolong the game, but in my opinion, this is game over here for black. So you see, after move h5, it doesn't even make sense now to trade off the queens. You cannot simplify the game in this in this kind of a way, because g6 is going to happen. You have to have your knight here on g6, protecting the potential g6 move by white. This is now a must know defensive idea here by black. So here in the continuation, we have rook to e8, knight to f4 was played by Stockfish 15. Continue the pressure, and notice now there is now a new target in the position, the weak e6 square. So you see, maybe against Stockfish you solve one problem, but then you get another problem because you're just on the defensive side. After knight to f4, here in the continuation we have knight to d7 by Leela C0. But even if you play again this idea, knight to c4, if you try to maybe simplify the game by trading off the queens. Again, g6 is going to happen, queen to g3, knight to g3, and again this idea, again the same tactical shot. You can maybe play the move e5 now, getting out of the range, but now with knight to e6, look at this, again the same position, similar position will happen again. You lose the tactical battle around the square. So you see, after move h5, there's not so much that can be done. In the continuation, we have now rook to e8, now we have knight to f4, and now here we have knight to d7, played by Leela LCZero, finally trying to include somehow this knight into the game and not allowing this knight maybe to move somewhere, because again we'll simply trade off the queens. But now Stockfish plays the brutal move, plays now knight to e6, and this game is becoming now really a spectacular, monstrous tactical battle. So after move knight to e6, let's see now what happens if you play f takes e6. In the game, Leela LCZero took the pawn on c2, but let's see now this continuation. This continuation is quite brutal, because after f takes e6, you get this one, bishop to e6, and now if you step back with your king to h8 here, you get this stunner. You have this one, knight to g6 is a beautiful checkmate, h takes g6, and now after h takes g6, this file is open, and of course the bishop is slicing up here on this diagonal, is not allowing the escape by the king. So you could maybe try king to f8, but now with bishop to f5, we just step back. Okay, you have protected this position for a while, but again this pawn is weak, we'll take it out. Knight to e6 is coming, so again a devastating position here for black, so it's not working. So after move knight to f4, as we said, knight to d7 was played by Leela LCZero, knight to e6, and now Leela LCZero took the pawn on c2. But we have seen also in the previous tactical battle sort of that, okay, you're taking a pawn, but actually nothing special is going on here. Of course the Stockfish steps back and your attack is splashed. You had your fun with one check, but you don't have further attacking progress. Sort of now again white is on the attacking side. In the continuation, we have now a4, we have now knight to d4, kicking away the queen. Okay, the queen was there for a while, but now again the queen has to retreat. But look at this now, there's a beautiful attacking formation again by white. The bishop is also attacking this one, the queen is here, the h file is dangerous, so it's again a devastating attack here for black. So in the continuation, Stockfish plays bishop to f5 with a serious threat to break again the position with the move g6, or maybe even with the move h6. Whatever happens, I think is quite good here for white. In the continuation, we have knight to f8. Here Leela LCZero includes now another piece into the defense, which makes really sense, but of course the rook is hanging. But even if you try, maybe let's see what happens if you play rook to d8. If you try to escape with your rook here from this diagonal of the light square bishop, as I said, the rook has to stay connected to the queen. The queen is now a little bit loose, and as I said in the beginning of the video, there is a certain tension on this diagonal. Maybe we don't realize it immediately, but now when the rook, for instance, steps back and is not protecting the queen anymore, now the fun starts with this one, bishop to h7. You would get this kind of a sort of Greek gift tactical shot here, king to h7, and now with g6, look at this, the attack is going on. We have here maybe this one, we're taking out, and now if you go to a square that can be attacked with the knight, then you get this knight to g6 discovered attack, and of course the queen is hanged. So whatever you do, of course, is also bad. King to f8, if you take here, is also not good. Queen to g6 is going to happen, h6, h7, so it's really a brutal attack against black. So that's why after move bishop to f5, you cannot step back with the rook. Leela LCZero made this decision and played knight to f8. We have bishop to c8, bishop to c8, and of course Stockfish is now up the exchange, has still a good activity, and okay, black has this centralized pawn and a minor piece against the rook, but I think it's simply not enough compensation, because here white has still a brutal setup, has a brutal activity. Still g6 is working, so still this attack is going on. It's not like, okay, Leela LCZero gave up now the rook for the exchange, but has defended everything. No, still the attack is making progress here. g6 is going to happen for sure in a couple more moves. So knight to e6, knight to f5, you see Stockfish is using now new squares in the position, bishop to d8, and now this pawn is also hanging, so it's game over here for black, I think. Now we have queen to g3. Now Stockfish wants to simplify the game, because Stockfish is saying, I have a better position. Now simplifications are perfectly fine. So knight to d5, rook to d5, bishop to b7, rook to d3, b3, we have f4, simply pushing the pawn further. We have rook to f8, getting out of the range of the rook. So Leela C0 is trying now maybe to include somehow the knight into the game. We have now bishop to d2, bishop to c7, hitting the pawn on f4. We have now bishop to b4, attacking the rook, rook to b8, and now knight to f5, including now this knight in a beautiful way into the game. Now also knight to e7 is a tactical threat. Bishop to a6, knight to e7. We have king to h8, rook to d7, attacking now the bishop, because if the knight moves, of course, then the bishop is hanging. We have now bishop to b5, rook to d1, retreating now. Bishop to f4 happens now, but now comes again this idea g6, breaking the position against the king. And notice still there are certain tactical threats. You see, you could get this kind of a checkmate with the rook to h1 if, for instance, the h file opens. Look at this with rook to h1. Maybe you could cover now with the bishop, but this is always sort of a threat that you should not forget about it, because if rook to h1 happens, then here the knight on e7 is controlling also the g8 square, so it will be then a beautiful checkmate. So after move g6, we have bishop to e8, we have bishop to d6. This is a good move by Stockfish 15, simplifying again the game, training off more pieces. Bishop to d6, rook to d6, a knight to g5, and now rook from e to d1, also with some ideas of maybe to play rook to d8, simplifying the game and going into a favorable land game. Knight to e6, knight to c6, we have rook to c8, knight to d8, we have knight to g5, we have rook to e1, attacking now the bishop. And now after a couple more moves, h takes g6, we have rook to e8, and here after king to h7, h takes g6 was played again with the check, so no checkmates are possible so far. But now the fun after f takes g6 really starts, because after rook to d1, Stockfish has now the opportunity to deliver a checkmate here on h1. So that's why the only defensive move is to play this kind of a fork. But again, nothing is working, because Stockfish plays now rook to e1, and actually it seems in the beginning that white is pinned here, but actually black is pinned. Look at what happens. For instance, if you try rook to d8, then we play rook to h1, and you have to cover now with your knight, and now the knight is not connected anymore to the rook, so we'll pick up just the rook on d8. Even if you trade, of course, with the knight, then you get rook to h1 immediately, a checkmate, so it's game over. So you see, actually black got overloaded here by white's attack, although here it seems that black has defended the position. So we have here knight to h6 by Leela C0. We have knight to e6, again a temporarily sacrifice just by the rook, because even if you take here rook to e8, then you get knight to g5, discovered check. Now we have also this one, and after rook to e1, you're getting again in sort of a checkmate pattern. You have to play now knight to g8 in order to cover yourself, but now you just play around with take off simply this pawn. Still you cannot escape, because again you get this check, you can again have to cover, and now we just include this other pawn into the attack, and this would be simply game over. So you have to play now rook to a2, and again allowing maybe knight to f6, but now you just play b4. You can of course play a huge mistake if you play, for instance, something like king to a2 in this position, then it would be a beautiful stalemate. So this is not working. So that's why, as we said, after move knight to e6 here, Leela C0 try g5, but of course after rook to c8, this is now completely winning. Stockfish simply includes now every piece into the attack. We have g6 here, we have now this restriction idea, and now after rook to d8, it was a beautiful checkmate. So a really stunning game in my opinion. We have seen so many tactical shots, especially I was surprised when I saw this e5 that it couldn't work. Let's go back to this moment. So here in this position, that actually e5 is not working because of this knight to f5. As we said, you have your fun with one check, but now this is a monstrous knight. This h5 g6 is working. Even the knight you saw could have been left behind. You don't have to even retreat with your knight, or you don't have to go somewhere with your knight. Still, you just continue to pressure here, because black loses too many tempi here, and this was a devastating attack here by white. So incredible game played by the fish. As I said, so far it's a +1 result for Stockfish 15 against Leela C0 in their super final. We'll cover more of course of these beautiful games. In my opinion, this will be still quite a spectacular match game. We'll see what Leela LCZero can do. Probably it will be again a tournament that Stockfish 15 will win, but so far Leela LCZero also won many games, so please check out the whole tournament. I'll show you the link of the TCEC competition in the description below, so you can also download some other PGNs, analyze many of these beautiful games for yourself. If you want to see more brutal attacks like this, check out my Commons Chess Games Play by Computer series. Here's the link of our whole playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.